Hello, I'm Nora, and welcome back to Novels with Nora. Today is my April wrap-up, and can you believe that we're already done with April? I feel like I do this every month where I'm like, the month is over, but also the month is over. So gonna skip out on that this month, but this is my April wrap-up. I read 9 books this month. Now, you might be like, Nora, you read 10 books in January and then like 8 books after that. So is that really like that big of a deal? Yes, it is, because at the start of the month, I was barely reading. This is my little calendar that shows how much I read. You see how the start of the month has like nothing? Yeah, I didn't think I was gonna get very many things read this month, and then all of a sudden, I read a book a day. Not really sure what was going on there, but there was something in the air. It was spring. Spring was in the air, and I said, let me read these books. So that is what happened. And so today I have 9 books to tell you about. Can you tell? I'm in kind of like a mood. It was supposed to rain today, but the sun's shining, so I'm feeling amped up. You know, I was outside with my dog this morning and I could feel the breeze. I could smell spring in the air. The flowers are blooming. I'm feeling energized. Also, this is my finals week for grad school, so I'm ready for a week off. So I'm feeling like I could hit him with a bust a move, you know? So I'm in a really good mood today, if you couldn't tell. So I think this will be a fun video for you to watch and me to look back at it and be like, oh, what were you doing? So let's just get started with the 9 books that I read this month. I started the month off with none other than Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. And I'm not gonna go into too much depth with this one because I have a full like 45-minute video of me talking about my thoughts on this, but I did read that this month and I gave that one 3.5 out of 5 stars because like I enjoyed it. I think I built it up too much in my head, and then it couldn't meet the expectations that I had built it up to. So that was Sunrise on the Reaping, and I think that's part of the reason why it took me a while to then pick up something else after that, because it's like, what do you read after a Hunger Games novel? You know, like where do you go from there? So that's how I was feeling after that. But then I ended up doing my Buzzwordathon vlog, which also ended up being my Reader on Haul vlog, and I read some interesting novels. The first thing I read for that was one of the books that has been on my shelves for the longest amount of time, if not the longest, and that is The Scorpion Rules by Erin Bow. Again, these next I'm not going to talk about in too much depth because I have a whole vlog for these two, but this got a 2-star from me due to some racism. Yeah. So this, which was really disappointing because I even mentioned in that vlog, the plot was really fascinating and I could see it being so interesting and so good, and the writing was also really good, but the racism, yeah. So 2 stars, moving on. After that, I picked up The Majesties by Tiffany Sao, and this was a delightful surprise. This ended up getting 4 stars from me, and I really loved it. It's a very short little novel, and I had a really wonderful time reading this. There were so many things that happened in here that there was an overarching plot, but there were so many little things happening that you kind of forgot the overarching part until you got to the end and you were like, oh, that's right. We were trying to solve this murder. So really fascinating, really love this. Again, if you're interested in my thoughts on either of these, I do have a vlog on my channel dedicated to both of these, and I will link that down below if you want to go watch that. But those are the 2 things I read for a vlog this month. After that, I was again in a little bit of a slump just because we had one pretty good book there and then one absolute mega flop. So I was like, I don't really know where to go from here. Like I want something to redeem the 3 that I read this month, but I wasn't sure what that was going to be. And I was also experiencing like decision paralysis, especially because we were getting close to the end of my semester. I had like so many assignments. I was like, I need something that's going to like grip me from page 1 and like keep me reading so that I'm not staring off into space thinking, why did I choose this for myself? So I ended up getting blessed with an arc of Brighter Than Scale, Swifter Than Flame by Neon Yang. And when I tell you, I requested this on a whim because I have not read anything from Neon Yang before. I own The Genesis of Misery, which they've written, but I have not read it. This concept just sounded so interesting. This is a book about, it was pitched as like Mandalorian meets like Sapphic Dragon Hunters. And I was like, oh, so I'm in. I'm so in. Also the cover, stunning. So I said, I simply am going to request it. They're probably gonna say no, but I'll request anyway. And then I got it and I read it in one sitting and I was gagged the entire time. It's like 176 pages. And when I tell you, jaw dropped, heart beating, smiling for like the whole time. It's so wonderful. So we follow our main character who as a child realizes that she has this special like dragon hunting power where like they're called the guild knights, the people who like slay dragons. Some of them have it, but not all of them. But the ones who do have it are like the best guild knights and the best at slaying dragons. And so when like a tiny little dragon invades her home, she realizes that she has the powers. So she gets sent to the capital to become a guild knight. And so she has to leave behind everything that she knows and like really take on the role of this guild knight. And she ends up making an oath that she will not take off her helm in front of anyone. And like that is like the identity that she takes on, is like this masked guild knight who's really good at her job, but no one knows who she is. And it's wonderful, hence the like Mandalorian reference there. But then she gets sent to this other nation because supposedly they have a dragon, and like the emperor is really greedy. So he's like, yeah, go in there, see what you can find, and like bring it back for us so that we can then invade and like do all the evil emperor things, right? But she ends up kind of falling for the king of the other nation, who is a girl. Yeah, I really loved that. I thought it was super fascinating that she was still considered the king, but she was a girl. Like, we didn't use a different term. I don't know. I thought that was fascinating. And the way that they, like, because it's a very short novel, but it feels like genuinely so much time passes, and it feels so like in depth. And like I finished, I was like, how is that only 176 pages? Like, how is this not a full-length novel? Because it was so good and so well fleshed out, and the world building was amazing. Like, shocked that it was only 176 pages because it was so good and so detailed and complex. Highly recommend this. But the way the relationship between our main character and the love interest like builds slowly over time, even though it's such a short novel, you really feel like the time passing and like the friendship into more building. And it was so wonderful. And then the way it ends, gagged. It was wonderful all around. This was an obvious 5-star for me, and I absolutely love this. And this is the novel that then kicked up my reading for the month, because I finished this and I was like, this is how a book is supposed to make me feel. I need to capture this feeling for everything else I read this month. So it really kind of sent me into a spiral of reading a lot more. But Brighter Than Scale, Swifter Than Flame by Neon Yang comes out on May 6th, and you should all be picking it up because it is genuinely so wonderful. Even if you just get it from your library because it is so short. I pre-ordered a copy immediately after finishing it because I said I need to have this on my shelves. First of all, again, cover stunning, writing stunning, plot stunning, characters stunning. Stunning book. Read the book. It's really fantastic. You should pick up a copy. It was really so fantastic. Even if you just like request it from your library, read it. It's so short. You can read it in one sitting. It's really super fantastic. 5 stars from me. And if you like dragons, if you like girls, if you like fun, you're gonna enjoy this. So pick it up. After that, I was feeling inspired by how good that book was, but I was also thinking, okay, I want to actually read more things from my shelves because I just feel like I need to be actually reading the books that I own. So I was deciding between Small Favors and Violet Made of Thorns, and I ended up going with Small Favors. And I annotated this. This was the first book that I ever like fully annotated, and I had so much fun. I did like the sticky tabs and highlights and underlines, and I had like sparkly gel pens, and I was putting different like little drawings in. I was just having like the time of my life doing this. I now understand why people annotate. I will say it made me read a lot slower because like you read something like, oh, I really like that, so then you have to pick up the highlighter, do the whole thing, you know? And also I was using like a ruler to make the line straight. So it was just like, it took a lot longer to, also it's like a long book. However, I feel like it made me appreciate what was being done a lot more because it made me read slower and really like digest what I was reading instead of just like blowing right through it, which I think is what I needed, especially because this book is so big, and I think it's like 490 some pages. Yeah, and a lot happens, and it's like slow moving, but like you can feel like the tension building, and I think that reading it slower like I did because I was annotating really helped my enjoyment with this. So this is about our main character Ellery, and she lives in this tiny little secluded village, honestly, of Amity Falls, and everyone in this village relies on each other for food, for clothing, for like literally anything. It's all produced here. However, the things that they can't get, they send out supply runs into the city, like through the forest into the city to get the supplies and bring them back. And we start the novel with one of the supply runs not coming back, and only one of their horses comes back, and it is like torn up in a way that like no animal or human could do. So they know that there's something out there. And the legend of Amity Falls is that the first settlers who moved there put these like bells through the forest to keep out the like monsters and the demons that were in the woods. And so everyone's immediately like, the monsters are back, like we need to protect ourselves. And from there, everything just spirals out of control. Like it gets messy so quickly because it's like this powder keg of a town where everyone knows everyone. And when one person does or says something, everyone knows about it. So like there's no secret keeping. And then like the monsters, yeah, and they're just like causing a lot more problems for everyone. And it's just like as soon as one bad thing happens, everyone knows about it, so then everyone's on edge. And like, so if you like a small town, secluded, atmosphere, this will really do it for you. I really love this. There is a romance in here, but it was like very mild, and the way it contributed to the plot was super wonderful. I really like this. It got a 4.5 for me because I really enjoyed it. Also, Aaron A. Craig's writing is stunning. Like, I have so many tabs in this just that are writing because I loved it so much. There were a lot of great conversations in here about like small towns and how, again, when one person knows something, everyone knows it. And then also, surprisingly, there were talks about like religion and how the men in power use religion to stay in power and keep their power in ways that's less than faithful, you know? So I did really enjoy this. And again, I annotated it. So like, I had so much fun reading this. And I do think that I will be annotating more things. So I had a really great time with this read. And again, I read it slower than I think I normally would have because I was annotating, but I really enjoyed that experience and I do want to annotate more things. However, question, if you annotate your books and you use tabs to do so, what do you do when you run out of just one color of tab? Because like this like gold color that like matched so perfectly with the cover, I only have like 2 of those left, but like every other color is still full. So I don't want to rebuy like the whole set of tabs just for the one color. So are there like small businesses that sell just like singular color refills? How does that work? If you annotate, let me know, because I would genuinely be very curious to hear what you do. After that, I picked up Violet Made of Thorns by Gina Chen. This was something that, again, has been on my shelf for a really long time, and I finally got around to it. And I read it in like one day, I think. I read this very quickly because I had the audiobook for this, and once I got started, I was like, oh, my neighbors are getting their grass cut, so we'll just have to deal with that. And yeah, this is my little dog, and he absolutely hates like construction workers and like men who wear like those neon vests. So he is having a rough time. So we are going to take a little break and come back when they are done cutting the grass and when he has settled down a little. Okay, they're still cutting the grass, so you can still hear that, but he's calmed down, so I think we can continue. So as I was saying, next I picked up Violet Made of Thorns by Gina Chen. And this, again, read it in like 1 or 2 sittings, really had a great time. And here we follow Violet, who is a seer. However, she is like becomes the royal seer, and the king has her like lie about her prophecies and the things that she's seeing to influence people to kind of make him and the kingdom seem better than it is. So she kind of like doesn't care though, because she's like, I got my place in the castle. I'm out of being an orphan in like the dirty streets. I'm here in the castle. I've got my own tower, so I'll do what the king says. He's a great guy. So she's kind of like, yeah, chill, whatever. However, she's beefing with the king's son, the prince, because the seer before her had a prophecy that he was going to die, or it was like going to cause the ruin of the kingdom. And so everyone expects her to like build onto that prophecy and like see more for that. And she does not see anything. And also the prince does not like her because she feeds into the king's lies, and he doesn't like her because of that. He wants her to like be her own person and like tell the truth pretty much, but they're also like attracted to each other, so they're dealing with like the we can't be together because we kind of hate each other, but also I've loved her forever, so you know, they're dealing with that. But then Violet gets these like visions of this like evil entity who's like also kind of like talking to her and being like, do this, and she's like, chill, I'll do it. Violet is such a fun main character because it's like she has ambitions, but she's kind of already achieved what she wants. She's kind of just chilling, truly. Like, she doesn't want bad things to happen to the kingdom because this is her home, and if anything happens to the king, her position within the kingdom and within like the court becomes jeopardized. So she like wants to stay on the king's good side, but also throughout the book she comes to realize that he is not the like good guy that she thinks he is, because he's almost like a father figure to her. So coming to terms with him like not being the greatest person is like kind of difficult for her. And then also she needs to be on the prince's good side so that when he eventually becomes king, she still has her place in the kingdom. But they're beefing with each other. They do not get along because he's in love with her, and so it's like a whole big thing. But then a lot happens in here. It's a very short book, but a lot happens. And I will say some of the plot points were like quite silly, and I was like, no, like what are we doing here? I did give this one a 4 out of 5 stars purely for enjoyment. I did really enjoy the plot and the writing and the characters. I think if you're a fan of fairy tales, you'll really like this because it is so clearly influenced by like Beauty and the Beast and Sleeping Beauty, and like all of those like traditional fairy tales are infused in here in ways where it's like you expect something to happen, but then something else happens, because it's like you can see those influences, so you have like a expectation, and then Gina Chen like blows those expectations away. I will say, however, she originally wrote this with the intention of it being at least a duology, if not a series, and then it ended up just being this one novel, so it does feel a little bit like there should be more and there's not. So we might get more in this world in the future, but for right now it's just this. And I will say, I did really enjoy it. Like, I had a lot of fun. I really liked Violet as a character. I like the tension between her and the prince. I had a great time. I just think that because it was originally supposed to be a series, things happened towards the end that felt like, oh, that's it, because it was supposed to be a series and now it's just this. So keep that in mind going into it. And the author has been very upfront about that, so it's not like a secret that there was supposed to be more, but I did really enjoy it. So I did really enjoy this. There were just some things where I was like, it's too silly. Like, I can't take it seriously because of those silly little aspects. But I did have a really great time. I do wish, however, that it was published as the author originally intended, because I think that would have made it so much better. And I will say, if I were to reread this, my rating would probably go down. I just had so much fun reading it, and it's exactly what I needed in the moment, because like I said, I read it in like 1 or 2 sittings, listening to the audiobook, and had a great time. If I were to reread it, the rating would probably go down, just because, yeah, it's probably not like a 4-star book. It's probably closer to like a 3 or 3.5, but I just had so much fun with it that it's staying as a 4 for me, because my enjoyment was really great. So that's Violet Made of Thorns. Next is another novel that I will not go super in depth with because I have a full vlog dedicated to this book, and that is Wings of Starlight by Alison Saft. If you want to see me cry over this book and then also laugh at myself because I'm crying, watch this vlog. It was, honestly, I really love this book. So we follow Clarion as she is becoming queen. In the Pixie Hollow and like the Tinkerbell movie, you see Clarion as the queen, and so this shows her as she is becoming queen. So we learn a lot more about the lore of Pixie Hollow in here. Really loved it. However, we also, in Tinkerbell Secret of the Wings is the movie that this was like really based on, pretty much, because in that one we see Queen Clarion and Lord Mallory and all of their tense situationship drama, and this gives us like what happened there, and it was devastating. If you've seen Secret of the Wings, you know why it would be devastating. It was so much worse even than I thought it was going to be. So if you want to know like my full in-depth thoughts, I do have a full vlog for it where you will see me cry and you will see me say that it was so evil of her to write this and then expect us to just like move on and be okay with it, because oh my god. Yeah, so the writing, stunning. The plot, really loved it. The way it expanded the lore of Pixie Hollow, fantastic. The emotional devastation, not fantastic. This was a 5 for me because how could it not be? So I won't do too much in depth with this because I do have a full vlog where I talk about the plot, my entire thoughts. It's like an hour long just for this one book. Clearly I had a lot to say about it then. I don't need to do it again now. After that, I was in, I don't want to say a slump, but it took me a little while to want to pick up anything else after that because nothing else was going to compare to that, especially on the heels of Small Favors and Violet Made of Thorns. So I was just feeling very like, I don't know what to pick up next. So I decided to go with a nonfiction because I'm trying to read at least 1 nonfiction a month. So I was like, I'll pick up a nonfiction. It'll be like something in between where I won't have like too many plot expectations of it. And I was still somehow disappointed with my nonfiction pick because I ended up reading Gloria Steinem's The Truth Will Set You Free, but First It Will Piss You Off. And this was my mistake in thinking that I was picking up like an actual nonfiction. This is mostly just like a collection of quotes with like little pieces of art in it, and I will say if that's what you're looking for, this is really fantastic. However, I didn't love this mainly because I was like, this wasn't for me. Okay, I did not end up rating this because I don't even know how you would rate something like this, because I liked, so it was like divided into sections, and each section had like a little chapter introducing it and like talking about why she chose this and like the feminist issues that she's going to be using the quotes to kind of explain, I guess. And I think that if you are like just getting into feminism and just getting into Gloria Steinem's writing, this might be really good for you. However, I am quite familiar with Gloria Steinem and I'm also quite familiar with feminism. So this to me kind of just felt like, it felt more like a coffee table book than an actual book that you would sit down and read, which is really disappointing because Gloria Steinem's writing and her voice is like really good and she has a lot of really interesting, fascinating, really good things to say. This just was not it for me. Mainly because these like actual chapters, so it'll be like the chapter with like the heading of what the quotes are going to be about, and then like actual like chapter following that. And this is the part that I really enjoyed. I wanted more of this, but then it goes into the quotes and I was like, these quotes just feel like disjointed and I'm not really sure who this book is for. So I didn't love it. I'm glad to have read it and like be getting more things off my shelf, but I think that this was just not for me as a reader, and that's totally okay. So that was my nonfiction for the month. Didn't love it, didn't hate it though. Like, I finished it and I was like, yeah, that's something that I read, but none of those quotes like are really gonna stick with me. I think because they're so just like, here, have some quotes, where if I had read the actual like writings that they were coming from with the context, I think that just would have been more impactful for me. The last thing I read this month, I actually just finished yesterday, the 30th of April, and that was another arc that I was super excited to get, and that is Kiss Me Maybe by Gabriela Gomez. If you saw any of my videos from last, well, not any of them, if you saw my Buzzwordathon and then also my wrap up from last month, you would have seen me read The Next Best Fling by Gabriela Gomez, and I absolutely ate it up. I loved it so much. And this is the next book in that, like, series, I guess. They're like interconnected standalones of romance novels, the Librarians in Love series. And this follows Marcella from the first book, her best friend Angela, and the bartender Crystal, who we also see in the first book. And we know there's some like flirtation there, and we get like the full story here. And this I absolutely loved. I will say, however, I did not love it as much as The Next Best Fling, which was like a little disappointing, honestly, because I usually prefer sapphic romances over straight romances, but the plot of this just didn't really do it for me. So in this, we follow Angela as she is like coming to terms with her sexual identity. She is coming out to more people in her life as an asexual lesbian, and she takes to TikTok, of all places, because she kind of has like a community there. And well, really what happens is that she posts a video that ends up being kind of like being interpreted as a thirst trap that like gets her in trouble with her job. And so then she posts another video being like, I don't want attention from men, I am an asexual lesbian. And people are like, oh my god, me too, like thank you for talking about your experience. So she starts to build this like online TikTok community, which I enjoyed that aspect. Then, however, she decides, I am going to stage a scavenger hunt where all of these other people in my community can like come out and like the winner will be my first kiss. And so there's a lot of TikTok drama, and I will say, however, this book does a really good job of staying timeless while also still like hinging on TikTok. So I'm not sure how she managed to do that, but I do think that even if TikTok manages to go away, which there's an author's note / dedication at the beginning, which talks about like, you're in the future, is TikTok gone? Do we still have it? What's going on? Anyway, here's my book about TikTok. And I thought that was really silly and also sad. But somehow she managed to write it where in a way that if TikTok goes away, this book still stands on its own. So I really enjoyed that. But I just didn't love the TikTok aspect of it and how many problems that created in Angela's life. And at some point I was like, girl, just stop posting. Like, you're creating more problems for yourself. So I didn't love that. I also just don't really love books that like focus on social media. So I didn't love that aspect, but the character development and like the character arcs in this were amazing, like really fantastic. I think that even if you don't love social media in your books, so that doesn't sound like something you want, if you love really good characters and really strong character growth, I would highly recommend this because it has that. It also has like such wonderful scenes of like consent and like talking through things and like fully like understanding the person that you're with. Also, it went there. It got a little more spicy than I was expecting, and I was like, oh, okay. So highly recommend this. I really enjoyed it, and I will be picking up anything else that comes out in this series because I just love Gabriela Gomez's writing. It's so fantastic. There's like an air of like lighthearted funniness to it while also being like super like down to earth, grounded, and like emotional and serious, and I really loved it. We also did see Marcella and Theo from the first book in here, and I really loved that. But Angela as a character is just like so fascinating, and seeing her like fully come to terms with her identity and like being solidly in love with herself and then also falling in love with Crystal, really fantastic. This was a great way to end the month and was just a super fun read, and I was really excited to get that arc, and I think I read that one all in 2 days. So again, had a great time with that. It ended up getting a 3.5 from me because I absolutely loved the characters. I just did not really mesh with the plot as much, and I found myself like when she was describing what she was doing on TikTok kind of like zoning out. I listened to the audiobook of this and I kind of just found myself like zoning out a little bit because I like didn't really care. However, the parts where she was like really going in depth with her like character development, really loved those, and I found that really carried the book for me. So that's that one. And with that, those are the 9 books that I read in April. Woo! I am really surprised that I managed to read that much. And it's really because a lot of the books that I read, I was able to read in like 1 or 2 sittings and like absolutely devoured. So I had a really wonderful reading month. Even if I had a few flaps, I had a 5-star read. I had actually 2 5-star reads and a lot of other things that I just like was getting off of my shelves and actually like making progress in my TBR. So as for a few stats, like I said, I read 9 books this month, which was a total of 2,945 pages. That is so many, and that feels crazy that I read that many over 9 books, but is what it is. I had 2 5 stars, 1 4.5 star, 2 4 star, 2 3.5 star, 1 2-star, and then 1 unrated for an average star rating of a 3.5, which I think is actually really good. I read 4 new release titles and then 5 backlist titles. However, the spreadsheet that I'm getting my stats from counts anything beyond last year as backlist, so is what it is. I read 2 physical books, 6 mixed media, so either ebook and audiobook or physical and audiobook, and then 1 just ebook. So had a really, really lovely reading month and read a lot of things from my shelves. 6 of the 9 books are things that I had on my shelves, so that was super exciting. And then I read 2 arcs, really exciting, and then 1 ebook, which is Sunrise on the Reaping. So I had a really great reading month, and I'm really looking forward to May. I have a week off from grad school in May, so I'm really hoping to get a lot read. I kind of want to do like a 24-hour reading vlog. I see a lot of other booktubers doing that and they seem really fun, and that week is like the only time that I actually am free to do that because I won't have like school obligations. So let me know if that's something you'd be interested in, and also let me know if you've read any of these books. If based on any of these you have any recommendations for me, I would love to hear what you have to say. If you watched any of those vlogs, let me know, because again, the Wings of Starlight reading vlog was so fun for me to film, and I didn't expect it to honestly do super well because it's one kind of niche book, and so the fact that like people are seeming to enjoy it, really exciting. And so I really just had a lot of fun putting that together because it's something that like made my inner child so happy, so seeing other people kind of connect with it, also very exciting. So that brings us to the end of this video. Again, like, comment, subscribe, stick around for what more we have coming up over here, and I will see you in my next video. Thank you again so much for being here. Bye.